Good afternoon. Hey, Ilze.
Good afternoon, Mara. How are you?
Good. So
Yeah.
today we decided to talk about sexuality and how it plays into the work that we do. We both have views about it. It's different for both of us. But what I noticed for the two of us is that we both name it as one of like our core values and how we're working with a person. My specific way I say it is that our bodies are the ones that are always guiding us in our direction in life, as well that how we are actually relating to our sexuality informs how we're relating to the world around us. And I saw for you, you named it as the power plant and like tending to the garden, and that our sexuality is this plant of power. So I want to start actually by asking you about the power plant and how you work with people with that.
Yeah. Power plant. Yeah, I mentioned that on my website. I have published my manifesto for gardens, rivers, and power plants. Yeah. That's where it's coming from. Yes. Um, what was the question?
Yeah, so tell me more about um, what that means to you when you say that, and if you're working with a client and you feel like that you have to go in that direction with them, how do you feel it helps your work?
Mm, uh, well, our work as coaches is to help our clients. And often, when a client comes to us with a problem, that's not the real problem. We always, yeah, it's their story. It's something that they truly believe that it is their problem. But what we do, as you know, right, Mara, we are digging deeper. What's underneath? What is actually the root cause? What the thing is? And we are driven by instincts. One is the two like opposing or powerful instincts is survival instinct and instinct to reproduce. And that's how we do that is through sexuality. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something powerful and what drives us. And also what often makes us suffer. And why suffer is because of our mindset. And why we have that mindset is basically because of the culture in many ways, and also because of how other people experience their sexuality. And then when we collide, our auras or sexualities collide, all that drama happens. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't actually say that I work with sexuality. It just
Right.
happens. It just happens. Well, we can speak. I have spoken. There was one particular person who came to me, a man who wanted to talk about sexuality. That was the specific request to talk about it. But generally, people don't name it in advance.
Mm-hmm.
They come with a different problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I find the same as well, even though I do state more that this is the area I work in as well as the spiritual realm. But I find people have come to me for all different reasons. But we always end up, that's a large part of where we go is into the sexual realm and how they're relating to it, how they're experiencing it. And I'm trying to. There was something you said that I was like, I want to speak on that. That I've now, I've now
Oh, yeah,
forgotten.
please. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, but oh yes, survival instinct, and yeah, the way I take that, yes, absolutely, it's our survival instinct to reproduce, and for me, in the work I do as well, I feel our sexuality is sort of like the core of our divinity as beings on earth. And this sort of understanding of the culture and how we get stuck in our heads about what sex means and how it should look or what it should be. the purity of sexuality, like that's how we all arrived on earth, is through sex, through
Exactly.
somebody
Yes.
had an orgasm, you know, in order to make it happen. So the purity of that, when we distill it down to the single point of that's how existence happens, it's this place of being completely unconditional. And when we can get to that place of unconditionality with our own sexuality, where we really work to break apart the ways we're judging it, the ways we're afraid to be judged, the shame that's been put upon us, or the shame we put on others based on our own life experiences, we can actually reach this place of being in an unconditional state and seeing the purity and innocence that it is to be a human. And so, and that creates more life.
Yeah, that is true. But also at the same time, how it affects the other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes it is not controlled when it should be controlled. And sometimes it is controlled when it shouldn't be controlled. That's basically, those are the two problems. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tell me
also interestingly, you mentioned orgasm. So somebody had an orgasm in order to have some, a new life. I had been thinking a little bit, although I relied on you, how you will guide this through, but it's not really about the orgasm itself, because we know how to have orgasm even without having a partner, right? Let's be honest. Everybody, I hope everybody does. But there's that's where something else, that all the complexity who we are comes in place, because problems, let's say, because people want to work on problems, not on what's going well in their lives. Problems occur when there's a relationship, basically. There's a relationship, and everybody is a little bit different, and people strive and stream and they want to cooperate, but something doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's not just to get orgasm. No. There's so much more in it.
Yes.
It's about the experience. It's about the experience. Yeah.
So when I say orgasm, specifically for some, a life got created, that's the very direct way we understand it. Sperm ejaculated, entered the egg. But yes, you're absolutely right. Orgasm, or the sexual experience itself, is so much larger than just that one act and that one goal. Whether or not it was the goal in the moment. It goes far beyond just that one bit of experience. Absolutely, I agree with you there.
Yeah, and that is also in my manifesto. It's about it's somewhat a power game. It's also surrendering, learning to surrender, feeling safe or insecure. How far can you go? What's the edge? At a certain point in time, do you want to eventually go further? Stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
And all that you're saying, I like to say, I always like to view sexuality as innocence, truly. I like to say all expression is innocence. And the vulgar is as sacred as the polite. So to be able to explore in the way that you're describing, that exploring power, exploring surrender, exploring your edges, how far do you want to go? We can really do that with joy when we work to remove where we're judging it, or where we have been shown that could be wrong. And we go back into that place of just innocence, play, really children explore. We don't want children to be exploring in this way, but our own inner child, that is an innocent expression of life. seeing, what does this mean? How does this feel? Why does it light me up? Why does it turn me on? And we can do that when we get back down to the heart of the purity of it, which is, this is why we're here. This is how we got here. as far as our understanding goes in this moment in time.
Yeah. Yeah, and also the opposite. You mentioned how far in joy and experience, but also understanding not just our own history, past, but also ancestral blockages that we have inherited, which I have definitely inherited, and I have worked on understanding that, which I hope has made me a better coach. What I also wanted to say, as I heard you speaking, yes, and we learn, but that knowledge is applicable, so to say, not directly, but allowing to experience and experiment and understanding the other, even in business, in other relationships. You don't need to have necessarily sex, or you typically don't have sex with everybody else in business, but because of what you have experienced sexually helps you elsewhere. That's my belief.
Yes. The intimacy. I was just having a business meeting with several people. We're discussing theater and a budding theater company. And what was sparking for me was there needs to be more intimacy here. So all the participants who are running the company can know intimately what their drives are, what their motivations are for the company.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And there was they hadn't quite gotten intimate enough with each other to really know how they're shaping this entity, which is like a child, when you're so there was a deeper place the people running that company have to get to before they can really help it grow to the degree they want it to grow. And so you're right, there is that it's not actual sex, but there's that exchange of energy, knowing each other so much, knowing what the other wants as well as what we want, and how can we make that work together versus just the power play or just the I don't want to say just the surrender, because there's power in surrendering when it's conscious.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's true. So true.
Yeah. So you do specifically have business experience, much more than me, and especially working with the clients you attract. How can you point to any specific advice or things you've pointed out to people that you feel come up most often in regards to how their sexuality is affecting their business?
I can. It's what have I pointed out? First of all, of course, I don't want to mention anybody specifically, but just to summarize what I have noticed, it's always about our self-esteem, really, and also fear of of being judged, and therefore negatively affect the business, and sometimes that or quite often that fear is not really substantiated. It's just in the person's head, and by allowing to be more open and maybe find solutions, more interesting solutions in marketing, or just in expression of themselves.
What's coming to me when you say that is that sense of that fear of being judged or coming from a place of shame. makes us want to defend ourselves, you know, when we're hearing an opposite point of view. Because it's like it could trigger us to feel judged when another person's simply offering a different point of view, or even something that could enhance either our business or whatever else we're working on in life. But when we're in full acceptance, we've removed our own self-judgments and understood our own shame. It puts us in that place to co-create, right, with the other partner, and hear the opposite point of view and appreciate it, even if we're going to disagree at the end of the day. The disagreement's coming from knowing in your whole body that that's the wrong decision versus just trying to defend what you feel shame about.
Yes. And yeah, that's like muscle that you develop. Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
for instance, you go to the gym and you do one activity and develop a specific muscle, but then you can apply that muscle power elsewhere in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a first step? Because if, you know, it's speaking about it actually being working out, which is true, and building, do you find there's a common place that you lead people as a first step?
It's actually the language to say the things, and that's where I would lead. Yeah, I am not embarrassed whatsoever to to name things as they come, and yeah, that would be the first step, and then of course things either go further, evolve, and we discuss things openly, or we don't. Typically we do.
Yeah.
Typically we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this we feel the same about these things, but I love you work so much with language and I work so much with the body, but it's two different ways to go about the same sort of place we want to explore. Because where I typically start with people is leading them into feeling how their body's reacting and working on getting subtler and subtler and subtler till there's like a sensitivity in their own body where they can really feel the motivation. And so that's where I start. And so that's so cool that you start with the language, and that probably goes down into the body.
Yeah.
And I start with the body, and it definitely comes out in the words.
That is beautiful. that is yeah, beautiful and nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you about the age range? What age your typical client is?
Yeah. So far in my work, my average is people in their 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have worked with younger, and particularly I also work with actors to get in touch with their sexuality, because that, whether or not you're playing a sexual role on stage, owning that energy gives you more freedom of expression. So usually when I'm working with actors, they tend to be younger, you know, late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, that makes sense, because at around 40 and 50, things change in people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then that's where, yeah, conversation with somebody from a side would help. Yeah, often. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard many times that turning 50 is like a rebirth. It's like a new life takes over when you turn 50.
I can confirm it.
It's exciting. It's for me hearing that in many ways, to having a new way to explore life to look forward to.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about, before we got on, we spoke a little bit about sexuality evolving over time, and when you go through life changes, the way you relate to it can change. So tell me about your experience with that.
Mm. And I think that I can, honestly, I think it's different for everyone. And of course, I could speak of myself here. I don't know how much I should, but have you seen do you watch Netflix sometimes?
Yeah.
You have it? Yeah. There is that documentary by Goop. I forgot what was it called. It was called, but Gwyneth Paltrow has that.
Oh yeah,
Goop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they have documentary that several series, and one is quite open where women explore their sexuality and their orgasms together. And I was kind of taken aback that there was a woman. I don't remember because I watched it a while ago, but I think she would be around like 40s, 50s, somewhere at that age. And she had never seen really her genitals. Yeah. And so there are people who explore their bodies and just observe and, notice things, places in their bodies. And I was one of them when I was young. And then there are people who don't. Mm-hmm. And then they, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe they don't feel just the curiosity, let's say that, or maybe they don't because they have been at an early stage told not to touch themselves because mm-hmm. There are parents who do that. So, yeah. So it's different for everybody. Certainly, sexuality is a combination of things. It's what's happening in your mind and head, but it's also, of course, triggered by our hormones and chemistry in general, right? And we have different chemistry at different stages of our lives. Yeah, it's very turbulent at around, in your, I don't know, early 20s or when you are a teenager. And then it's kind of like stabilizes later. And then there are changes when you reach that 50 and beyond line. Mm-hmm. But what I want to say is that even before you become sexually active, I have two sons and I have two children. I kind of like have observed children, the male children as well, of course. And we are sexual beings from the very beginning, from when we are born. That's what I want to say. And although I am not like 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 yet, I want to believe that I will still be a sexual person at that age. So therefore, in my value system, health is practically on the top. Yeah. Because when you are healthy, then you have healthy sexuality, mm-hmm. and that is your power plant. Well, that's at least how I see the world and the things. So we need to maintain our power plants pure and clean and healthy. We want to just generally feel happy. That's what I believe in, and take care of our partners as well.
Yeah, beautiful. It's true. The more we do care for the body, which is how we experience a large part of how we experience sexuality. Yes, it also is in our minds as well, but our minds are inside of our body.
Yes.
The more we can feel and attune and explore and yes, care for the people we're interacting with as well. Mm-hmm. It's a very important part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have found personally for me, my own relationship to my sexuality has shifted in terms of how far I've explored my own inner world and had very large breakthrough spiritual experiences through using plant medicines or my own meditation or being alone a lot. And then coming back and exploring different partners. And the more I have discovered about myself, I found that's where my biggest shifts come, in how I want to engage with a person and what I'm able to bring into that experience. And so it's an important thing to talk about when we are working with people, is that this is a living relationship, or as you live and grow, this part of you, this essence of who you are, as I like to say it, is going to change and grow, and to navigate those shifts. Sometimes they happen without us wanting them to happen.
Yes.
Or you're suddenly in the place of, wait, what happens?
I like how you talk about spirituality, and if I can ask you, but that would you agree that that comes typically after you have explored yourself as a physical person? You explore yourself, although I don't think it's always in 100% situations, and I think that we can talk about, I don't know if we want to talk much longer, but we can talk about religion and how that affects our sexuality. And there are different religions, and some suppress it, and vice versa. Yeah. Have you had any struggles with people? I mean, have you had clients who have struggles because of their religious affiliation?
At least in my experience with my clients, that hasn't been the crux of it. It's been loosely related, but it hasn't been directly like because of me spiritually exploring this way, this has been the result. But there will be a sense of, because I grew up in whatever the religion was household, there was a sense of how sexuality should be viewed. And so that has trickled down into how they feel they can explore, or what's proper, or what's off limits, or the fear of being punished, for sure.
Yeah. There is so much to talk about, and we can go into different directions, and probably that would need to be a different conversation.
So religion and sexuality is so nuanced, it could take up a whole hour.
Yes. Shall we maybe stop here for now, or do you have anything else
I think we can pause here for today. But just searching for the innocence is the way I like to go about it, finding what's the most innocent place. And I feel innocence and sex are often thought as two separate things, but I love to work to bring them together. And that's just the thought I'd like to close on.
I love that, and I will take it with me. And for me, it's really to being aware that it's your power plant. That's your most powerful plant, garden. Quoting my manifesto.
Yes, it's beautiful. I love that wording of it.
Thank you, Mara. I think some people maybe got curious, and maybe, there is potential to discuss it further.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll say bye-bye for today. Tomorrow we do meet at 11, right?
Yes, 11 tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so what do I do here?